Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I am Sherry Grogan. Oh, we have one more here. President of Rural Leavenworth, Inc. This is our annual membership meeting. We are also on Zoom and the meeting is being recorded. The other board members are here beside me. We have Eric McMillan, Richard Foz, Steve Vernon, our secretary, and I think Howie Brewington will be coming in. He's usually comes from way up north in the county and he still works. So he may show up here in a minute and he is our treasurer. Tonight we'll have an overview of our 2025 review survey results and conduct the election of 2 officers. 2025 was a little bit slower for us here in RLI because I was helping my mother in Garnet for a few months. She had fallen and broken her hip and broken a kneecap. And so anyway, that's where I was missing in action. And the other thing is the development activity and special use permits for a good portion of the year until later on were fairly routine. And the regulation changes that the county suggested, we didn't really have any issues with them, so we didn't provide any comments on those. There were some more controversial developments within Lansing and Basehor city limits. And some of them were around the subdivision size, the density, location, and/or incentives offered. We saw a lot of new players step up and get involved. We thank you for that, Joan and Jim and others. So we saw some new people participating in public meetings, sharing information. There were quite a few people that participated in the public hearings in the Lansing area on the reinvestment housing incentive district. Richard actually made some comments at that public hearing. And I think you went to the county meeting as well.
Yes, I spoke at the county in USD 469.
We did update our bylaws. When we were initially formed, we had 7 board of directors, and our bylaws were updated in 2025 to reduce that to 5. And really, it's just the main reason is we had a hard time keeping those spots filled. People, would do it for a while and then they kind of get tired. And this is not really a high pressure, I guess, time-consuming job here, and we were pretty effective at running it with 5. So that's what we decided to do. In July of 2025, we had a speaker. His name was Kurt Ratzlaff, and he was with the Kansas Outdoor Heritage Alliance and legislative chairperson for the Kansas Backcountry Hunters and Anglers organization. We also had numerous discussions amongst board members on different things we could do in the future and ways to collaborate with others for the common good. And the survey that we're going to talk about tonight was one of the outputs from those discussions. Our Facebook page has 3,560 people on it. It's growing over the years. We thank Corey. He helps moderate that. So thank you. We also have now what's called Substack instead of a traditional website. And it's more, people use Substack for more of a blog type tool. And it's a little bit, I think, will be more effective than our Facebook, because Facebook is, kind of limited on space, and then you lose things. And with Substack, we can have like a paid version of it where people can actually see more of the content than just people that go to that and get a quick look at it. But our goal in 2026 is to put some robust content in there, because right now it's kind of bare bones and we haven't advertised it yet or publicized it. We also changed our mailbox from Basehor to the Easton post office. And so those changes that we made were really to help us be a little bit more cost effective. The prices, like on the website, we got a great introductory price from GoDaddy, but after a few years, they bumped that price up, and The post office box, that thing was up to like what, $180 some. And so going to Easton, it's only $80. So just, some little minor things to save a few bucks here and there. We've had some success in the past over the few years that we've been in operation with the elected officials. Sometimes they listen to us and sometimes they don't. One of the things that we've advocated for is increased budget transparency. Eric did a great job on that. I sent letters in. I mean, we've all pretty much touched on that at one point when we went up and talked to them or sent letters in. And then another idea that we didn't get a lot of traction on was encouraging, like preservation of open space. And we're not saying don't develop, but as we grow as a county, and we're going to talk about it in the survey, like let's have a vision and set aside a little bit here and there. You see other counties, for example, I mean, really pretty much all of them, Douglas and Johnson, and they have some parks out in their county, and they don't just leave it up to the city to plan for those. But we know growth is occurring rapidly, and by all indications, that's going to continue. We've got the Panasonic plant that's employing a lot of people. The potential for the stadium in Wyandotte County, if that's a go, I mean, it sounds like it would. I know there's things that aren't final yet. And then there are some special use permits that may generate a little controversy. One of them has already been through the Planning Commission. I think the Board of County Commissioners will hear about that in February. That's the sand plant down by the river. There's discussion about a nuclear power facility somewhere west of Lansing, I think it is. Core Civic still going on up in Leavenworth. And then there was a battery storage facility that a company came and presented to the Board of County Commissioners. I think it was like 2 months ago, maybe, could be 3 months by now. And that was down towards the Metro Avenue area. So there is a lot of activity, and it's going to continue. There's also a large proposed housing development on Golden Road that is on this week's agenda at the Planning Commission. Overall, though, we think RLI is still relevant. Even though we're a small organization, we play an important role in the community, keeping people informed, raising awareness, helping people understand the need to adapt to change, influencing policy, and really being the voice of the people. I love it that more and more people are kind of stepping up and sharing their opinions. But we appreciate your support. Some people have already, if you want to be a member, that's just $25 a person per year. And people that live outside city limits have a voting right. And then if you're inside the city limits, but yet you own property out in the county over a certain threshold, you can be a member too. And we do encourage people within the city to support us. We have some people that are members that live inside the cities now. And so that concludes the 2025 review. And now I'm going to turn it over to Eric McMillan to moderate the survey results discussion.
Hi, I'm Eric McMillan, a member of the RLI board and a resident of rural Leavenworth County for 18 years. And I'll be the moderator for tonight's discussion. The survey we're about to discuss.
You're still muted. Yeah, we're using it.
Yeah, we're using this desk, but thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we don't intend this to be a silent movie. Anyway, the survey that we're about to discuss has 14 questions focusing on items of interest to residents of rural Leavenworth County. The survey was posted on the RLI Facebook page and was shared to several other Facebook pages for Leavenworth County residents. When we compiled the data on the slides, you will see we had 422 responses, 422 people weighed in on the questions. We will try to cover this important input. And the remainder of this hour, we're shooting to be done by 7:30 with the survey discussion. But that's hardly enough time to really do it justice. We do want your questions and comments. I really wish we could deal with them tonight. But what we're going to ask is if you are here in person, please write your questions down on one of the 3x5 cards that's in front of you, and there should be pencils or pens close by too, and give it to us before you leave the meeting. If you're here by Zoom, please put your questions and comments in the Zoom chat. We will try to compile your questions and comments and discuss them in a future RLI meeting, perhaps as early as next month. So thanks in advance for your patience and your cooperation with that. To discuss your answers to the survey questions, we have 3 members of the RLI board. Richard Paz has been a member of RLI and an RLI board director from High Prairie Township since 2023. And this is Richard here on my immediate right. Richard is a retired military officer, and he and his wife, Marion, have made rural Leavenworth County their home for the past 19 years. Richard's interests include local and state tax and economic policy, and he will be our lead for discussing tax and economy issues. Steve Vernon, on my far right down here, is the secretary of RLI, and I think perhaps a future treasurer also. Steve is a veteran and was in federal civilian service for many years. Among other endeavors he is extensively involved in, involved in beekeeping and honey production. He is also a 5th generation Kansan and has lived in Leavenworth County since 1998. Steve will discuss the Stranger Creek flooding issue tonight and weigh in on some of our other issues. Sherry Grogan, here on my left, is the founding and current president of RLI, and she has long management experience in the corporate world. She also has deep knowledge across the range of local and state issues, particularly as they affect rural residents. She will be our lead tonight on development issues. Let's go ahead and launch into the survey results. Okay, question 1, where do you live? For question 1, 60.9% of the respondents said they live in the unincorporated or rural areas of Leavenworth County. 36.7% said they lived in the incorporated towns in the county. I'll just add, I think these numbers mean Rural Leavenworth, Inc. And the survey that we did connected with rural residents, and maybe too that many that live in our towns also feel a deep connection to the rural areas of the county and are interested in largely the same issues. Okay, question 2. Okay, let's go ahead. We've got the question 2 slide up, the first one. What do you like most about living in Leavenworth County? This question let respondents check as many answers as they thought apply. So if you're quick with math and you're adding up those numbers, they're going to come up to more than 100%. And that's because people could answer more than one response to it. However, the top 3 responses were open space at 68.6. This is the things that people most liked about living in Leavenworth County. Number 2 was low crime at 48.5%. And number 3 was agricultural land for farming at 48.2%. There were also numerous write-in comments. Sherry, what do you think these numbers mean? And what were some of the write-in comments that jumped out at you?
Well, it isn't surprising that open space ranked high, and it correlates with the 61% of the respondents that living outside city limits. But open space means undeveloped or largely undeveloped land, public or private, kept free from intensive building or purposes like recreation, conservation, agriculture, or scenic beauty. And they provide environmental and community benefits. Note that doesn't really mean don't develop. It means be smart and try to use your land wisely and people do want parks and things of that nature. And we're going to talk more about that. But in 2019, a survey was conducted by a consultant in conjunction with the comprehensive plan development, and rural atmosphere ranked high at that time. It was the first of the top 3 reasons for living in Leavenworth County. And so in 2019, that was 69.3%. So it was an important issue a few years ago. It's still an important issue now. And along with open space, low crime, and sense of community are often reasons why people move further away from more populated areas. Write-in responses, what we heard were references to rural small town character, getting away from Wyandotte and Johnson County, being close to the metro area, which in 2019, same survey I referenced before, that got 50.5% of the responses. And then the last one that was important, at least kind of to me, was having space for their toys. And the write-in specifically mentioned a monster truck. But if you drive around in the county and kind of keep your eyes open, you're going to see trucks, like semi trucks. You guys have some semi trucks out there, my friend Jeanette. Cool. And but boats, campers, 4-wheelers, trailers, what'd you say? Airplanes. I mean, and you're gonna see a lot of
Horses.
right, horses. But you see a lot of houses with a shop or another outbuilding. So people want room for their toys and their stuff, and some people work in their shops. So that's question 2, right?
Okay, Sherry, I need to jump in here. I think we may have a technical tweak we need to make.
Okay.
I'm not seeing what you're seeing on your screen, so I'm just wondering if our at-home audience is seeing it.
Well, that's
There's cameras back up there.
weird.
Okay, I didn't know if you've got your screen share on or not.
I do.
Okay,
So we can.
I'll ask.
okay, because we're not getting the same slide. Sorry about that.
Ask for remote people. I can only see the first slide. Oh. Okay. That.
Yeah,
You seeing that?
he's saying I am seeing the pie chart still, and we're still on slide 1 or question 1 on what we're getting.
On the first slide.
Maybe stop the share and then
Oh,
restart
that's a
it.
good idea.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now I'm on
Okay.
question 2. Let's try it again. Okay, that's
Okay.
where we left off, and I think we're ready to jump into question 3. So let's, you can advance this one there. We'll see what we got. Okay. That's one of the hidden slides.
Yeah, I don't think I'm on. For some reason, it's not liking me. Oh, resume slideshow. There.
It's kind of glitching a little bit on you. Yeah, our next question that we're moving to, trying to get the slide up for, is what would make Leavenworth County a more desirable place to live? And this one has a pretty lopsided response. If you remember from the Facebook, the number 2 response was 7.7% saying more affordable housing. Over 60% of the respondents said lower taxes. Richard, could you please tell us about the tax response?
Absolutely. In a sense, I think this is one of the most important, if not the most important finding in our survey.
Yeah.
And yet it's not surprising. People responded not with, we need more housing and more development, but hey, lower taxes, period. End of story. And this tells us something crucial, that residents, especially in the fixed income realm, are feeling a tax burden that is significant. And there doesn't seem to be much being done about it to relieve that tax burden. And so we all want to keep living here, but it's getting harder and harder for folks to afford to do that. So we appreciate the beauty of and the freedom of a rural lifestyle, but if you can't afford it, it's not so beautiful. And when county officials or whatever officials talk about economic development or housing incentives, they often frame it as if we need more housing. And as we'll see later in the discussion on the details, housing in mid to low density does not pay for itself. It consumes more than the revenue that it generates. So when you hear someone say, hey, we need the more housing because it'll fix our tax problem, it will not. And the same folks who say we have an imbalance between residential and business, a 90-10 split, so more housing doesn't fix that either. So there are some contradictions in there. And I think there are ultimately solutions, but it involves the state as well as the local governments. And then some economists have said property taxes are supposed to be paid by property owners, but the economics shows that who bears the tax burden depends on not only market conditions, but also the politics. And that's where it gets a little complex and a little, on who's selling you what. But as we all know, you got to follow the money. And right now, folks are hurting in their kitchen table pocketbooks because of certain policies, if not carefully explained and used, it could result into making the situation worse for residents, especially in the rural setting.
Thanks, Richard. Sherry, can you talk to a couple of the other responses besides taxes, please?
Yes, some of the write-ins had concerns with the amount of residential development but they wanted affordable housing. A couple of the comments talked about parks, preserving open space for trails. In other words, people are concerned about losing the open space due to all the development that's going on.
Thank you. Let's jump to 4. Okay, question 4. Are you satisfied with the availability of outdoor recreational opportunities in Leavenworth County? The answers are 53.1% yes, 37.9% no, and 9% not sure. Sherry, what do you think these numbers mean?
The yes responses are likely saying that they want more access to the open space, but we didn't define recreational activity, and we didn't ask what specific recreational activities do you want to be able to do more of or have access to. There is currently limited public access for hiking, biking, hunting, fishing, boating. With the exception of the state fishing lake west of Tonganoxie, the cities are the ones that have taken the lead in trails development, in parks. But if you're someone that likes to, let's say, hike through the woods or mountain bike, or let's say you live in Easton and you like to fish, like going clear to Tonganoxie might not be that attractive. So the other thing is that 2019 survey also had outdoor recreational facilities as the most popular choice for any new type of development. And that was at a 60.2%. So that's something that stayed fairly high. But it would be helpful to know more about what types of recreational activities people have an interest in.
Thank you. Now to question 5. This, given the interest in development, is probably a predictable question with a somewhat surprising answer. Question is, does the Leavenworth County Comprehensive Plan encourage development in and or near the cities? 18.7% said no, 19% said yes, and 62.3% said they were not sure. Okay, Sherry, I'm going to give you a hard one. Can you break the code on these answers?
The 62.3 is very surprising to me, but I was pretty involved in the development of the comprehensive plan as a citizen, participating in all the activities that happened around that. But it could be that respondents don't get out much and aren't really aware of where the developments are occurring, or maybe they don't know what the plan says. For example, northern residents, they might not make their way down south to where we live, where those of us around Pacer live, and understand the amount of development there. Another interpretation is citizens see a gap between what the comprehensive plan says and what is actually happening. Just for those of you that aren't familiar with the comprehensive plan, it provides a guideline for where development should occur and at what density, the future development or the future vision for the county, and action items to support the plan. It was adopted in 2020 and it had minor updates in 2024. A lot of work went into the plan. They hired a consultant, the county did, who facilitated numerous community engagement sessions. It's a lengthy document with 123 pages, and it includes a very important land use map that guidelines the decision-making on zoning and development projects.
Okay, well, let's kind of pull away from the written plan and talk about what people think in their minds about their vision for residential growth in Leavenworth County. Question 6. Does the current residential growth in Leavenworth County align with your vision of the county? Here, people were a lot more sure. 69.2% said no. 19.2% said yes. 11.6% were unsure. Sherry, over to you again.
Okay. Well, the no suggests that people are concerned with what is happening. It is important to know, though, that this question is countywide, and so things that are happening within cities could be a factor in the actual result. Some people come to Leavenworth County to get out of the city and for its small town character, but you know they have fear that the growth will impact their lifestyle and that it'll have a negative impact on taxes, safety, traffic, and the beauty of the county. So I get it, but I don't, you know, it's just, there's going to be some changes.
May I chime in?
Sure.
We spoke of this about the Kansas law, the statute says you can have a comprehensive plan, but that plan itself is not law. So as we spoke before, we have some folks who have mobilized their neighborhoods on developments. So you don't have, when it says, you know, preserve rural character in there, but there's no hard connection between a zoning or code that says, hey, this is how you do it. You will do X, Y, and Z. So I think there's that kind of a missing piece there. And again, that's why we have active folks here who are in the room and about who can then, okay, say, so how do we close that gap? And I think one of RLI's functions is we can help do that.
Yeah, and I want to thank you because I think both of you have kind of jumped into what may be the biggest development question. Why is the development people are seeing, residential development people are seeing, doesn't align with how they think the county ought to look? So let's go ahead and go on to question 7. And question 7, a similar question. Should the Board of County Commissioners continue to approve the construction of rural residential developments? We had 5 choices here, so please bear with me. The first of the 5 options for response was no, keep the county's rural character. And this was 43.8% of the respondents. The next one was yes, landowners should be able to do what they want with their land at 19.2%. Next was yes, if it fits with Leavenworth County's comprehensive plan at 16.6%. The fourth answer, no, these residential developments cause higher taxes. Here we go with the T word again, at 16.4%. And then not sure, 4%. Sherry, what do you think about the three responses that don't use the T word?
Okay, so, the largest one, the 43.8 about the rural character, we talked about it before. People, that's important to people. They like the rural character, whatever that means, right? We know we're close to the metro area, so we're not as rural as Western Kansas. So rural in Western Kansas means something different than what it does here in Leavenworth County. So I think for our community, we really have to understand, what does that mean? Is it about setting aside a little bit of land here and there and trying to incorporate open space? Is it about safety? Is it about traffic? Really digging into what does that mean? The 19.2 about people being able to do what they want with their land. These are our strong property rights people. They don't want anyone telling them what to do. And they understand that if you're an individual, if you're a developer, whatever, whoever owns their land should be able to do what they want. That makes sense to a certain degree. But if you think about it, we have all kinds of regulations today. We have setback, lot width and depth ratios, building codes, zoning. You can't put a strip club in the middle of town. I mean, all these different things. So that there are regulations today. And I think sometimes people forget about that a little bit. And it isn't all about doing everything you want with your own land. And then the 16.6, these I think are the people that really are familiar with the comprehensive plan. They've read it. They understand the land use map. They understand zoning and all the processes around that. The planning commission and the decision-making body, whether that's the city commission or the board of county commissioners, that sort of thing. So they know that growth will happen, but there are some guidelines that need to be followed as set out in the comprehensive plan. So these results are interesting.
Okay, Richard, the T word and
The T word.
development. Do rural residential developments cause higher taxes?
Actually, as far as the research shows, I think that answer is yes. And it's not, it maybe seem counterintuitive, but here's an example of a community cost of community services study. So for every $1 of residential property tax collected, $1.15 to $1.50 is spent on public services, right? Mid to low density. So if you have someone going, hey, this will pay for itself, not so fast. And it's not the case. And we can look at, there is data on that. So what we're looking at, and here I might get shot in the face for this, but we want higher density development, but we want higher density within urban zones for the cities. So they're our friends. We need to be supporting them as well. Not island annexations, not the proverbial urban sprawl, or I guess you could also say rural sprawl. We want to make sure it's focused. So, for example, Lansing has an opportunity with its town center. Leavenworth's looking at an RHID for their downtown, and that would be a case where RHID might be appropriate because the benefits outweigh the costs, perhaps in that case. So, but if you're looking at the development as things have been going on, that pattern, it doesn't appear to be cost effective, and residents need to know that and to kind of be the honest brokers with folks who are saying this, but where's your data? And I've submitted this in reference to the RHID fights where you had these sprawling major developments. And I never got a hard response on a counter statement or counter data that said that this was wrong. So again, that was disappointing, and it's not the entire county, because I know the county pushed back too, and they got a lot of flack for it. So good on them. But so it's up to citizens kind of to force the issue a lot of times. But we need to support our cities, but also understand that development does come at a cost, and services is one thing. There's also congestion, safety, and the whole gamut. But nothing's free.
Thanks, Richard. Let's go on to question 8. And this is rubber meets the road, or actually where the water meets our properties question. Question 8, should the Board of County Commissioners attempt to form a working group with the Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, to find solutions to mitigate flooding along Stranger Creek? And the answers there were 3 options. 43.8% said no, 34.1% said yes, 22% were unsure. Steve, make us smart on this.
I'm going to start with 22% that said they're unsure about this sort of stuff. Chief McGaha, who is the Director of Emergency Management within Leavenworth County, said that flood management is the #1 expense of his office inside Leavenworth County. Okay, it takes more time in terms of manpower and equipment than any other emergency response that they're forced to take. There's a cost there. Stranger Creek flooding, for those who've not lived here long, blocks access by emergency service vehicles. It blocks school buses. Cities and portions of various townships pay a total with the whole county of 13.878 mils for this flood mitigation along Stranger Creek. The mill levy per area is 1.542 mils. The fact that that mill levy is uniform for Alexandria, Easton, Linwood, and various portions of Stranger seem to indicate that that is being set somewhere else other than the township councils and perhaps even beyond Leavenworth County Board of County Commissioners. Stranger Creek floods on average once or twice per year. And that's when that blockage occurs. It has blocked the access to Easton, as I'm sure Eric well knows. Along 92, it causes damage to roadways. It causes damage to bridges. And in terms of long-term damage, along and numerous county roads as well. It's also at one point in time in 95, it actually threatened 2440. It hasn't threatened it since 1995. It has almost closed Highway 192 on occasion as well. One concept that was developed a while back, and this is maybe even before my time, was to create a lake in vicinity of the city of Easton. That'd be north of Highway 92. You saw some of the responses about more green spaces, more recreational activities, and things like that. So that may be a possible solution. The solutions that I've seen for flooding along Stranger Creek, they're on the west side of Leavenworth County 5 or Tonganoxie Road. There's a small pond. I think I've seen that pond dry maybe 2 years out of the entire time that I drove Tonganoxie Road to get to Fort Leavenworth. There's drainage ditches along Leavenworth County 5 as well. There are also drainage ditches on the south side of 2440. Why they put drainage ditches on the south side of 2440 to control flooding is, I really don't understand that too much. Okay, this is a problem for various levels of government. Farmers and ranchers along Stranger Creek pay flood insurance. Individuals are paying for insurance about flooding. What I think makes sense here is a working group, perhaps headed by the Board of County Commissioners, to actually look into this problem. And I think the individuals that answered yes to this particular question already understand that.
Steve, I want to thank you again for being our subject matter expert on this.
2 more minutes or 1 more minute?
We don't have 2 more minutes. I'm sorry. We're going to have to move on, but I'm sure the questions and comments will get in. Okay, question 9. Which of the following budget areas do you think are overfunded in the Leavenworth County 2025 budget? Okay, this is another check all that apply. A question where respondents could choose more than one answer. I'll just read the top 3 responses. All of the above are overfunded at 25.8%. County Commission overfunded at 25.6%. This is not how much they were overfunded. It was how many people selected that. None of the above. Funding is okay at 24.9%. And there were also numerous write-in responses. I want to get the input of each of our panel members here on this. Richard, then Sherry, and then Steve.
Yeah, this is a tough one, and I think folks are saying the commission is overfunded, but they're not saying cut everything. I think they're saying for what you're being given, whether it's your pay or all the funding and taxes, you're not delivering. But I know I don't want to be overly harsh because certain commissioners are delivering, and maybe certain others aren't. But it could be issue based too. So, and again, the RHID piece, I think in a case they did come through, but I know some didn't. That's a singular case. But I think it's there's frustration because again, what do the people want? Lower taxes. They don't want more development throughout the rural space, and we'll see later that they feel they're not being represented fully. So I think it's like our bang for our buck is not quite there overall without getting too harsh. But one quick thing is though, there are things out of their control at the state level in terms of tax expenditures, tax breaks for some, which end up making it very difficult for the county to do its job.
Thanks. Sherry?
Okay, these results are all over the board, but what stands out to me is that the two largest budget line items outside of the general budget line item are roads and bridges and sheriff. And those two items have a fairly low percentage. So in the budget world, you can't really make a lot of budget savings by cutting your small budget items, line items. You go for your larger budget items. So, you know, I don't know how much room there is to really reduce the budget. That's what I'm saying. If we're going to just go after the county commission budget or register of deed, you know, those.
Yeah.
Because roads and bridges and sheriff, they're a big budget item.
Okay, I'm going to try multitasking. I'm not good. Steve,
Thank
finish your
you.
comment. Sherry, can
I'm
you
going to build on what
advance us one
Sherry
slide?
just said. Second largest expenditure
Thank you.
item in the county budget is roads and bridges. I already talked a little bit about that in terms of flood control throughout the county. There are three kinds of roads in the county. There are gravel, there are chip, and there are paved. You don't need to spend any money for gravel roads. Chip roads are the next cheapest way to put roads in. The most expensive way to put roads in is concrete. Now, concrete requires less maintenance than chip roads do. I can speak to about a pound of chips that come down my driveway every time it rains. Okay. So it's when you see your neighbors putting in dust abatement roads, that's basically a chip road. And they pay for that. But after that point in time, the maintenance of that chip road becomes a burden that the rest of the taxpayers inside of Leavenworth County have to pay.
Okay, good, thanks. Question 12, very much related, or I'm sorry, question 10, very much related to this past one, drilling down on budget again. Question 10 says, should a new committee on government efficiency be formed to try to hold down the costs of Leavenworth County government? The answers were 48.8% said yes, the committee should be formed. It should include both private citizens and county officials. 21.5% said no, this is the job of county commissioners. And 17.8% said yes, composed only of private citizens. There were two other answers. Not sure was 12.1%, and no, the county is efficient, taxes are reasonable, and that was 1.2%. Richard?
Yeah, I think what the numbers tell us is that folks want collaboration, more citizens involved, because as the saying goes, the hog can't slaughter itself. And so you need folks in there who have no direct interest in what budgets are, or what, you know, whose favorite little division is and all that. But you need, and we have a lot of smart folks in the county with a ton of experience. So it's there. And so again, more citizen involvement is the bottom line.
Okay, Sherry, could you add,
Sure.
maybe a short answer?
Yeah, I agree with Richard that people want to be part of the solution and have input. It's also a good indicator that they want transparency and that they're seeking to understand what's going on, and maybe even that they don't trust the government.
Okay, question 11. Do industrial businesses help reduce the property tax burden on residential homeowners? The answers were 47.6% said no, they don't help reduce taxes. 23.6% or 26.3% said they were unsure. 26.1% said they do help reduce taxes. Richard, straight down your lane.
Yeah. And here I think the people's intuition is correct. And I don't want to be a downer on this, but I'll use Hill's Pet Nutrition as an example. That's a great positive story, but they received a 100% tax abatement for 10 years. So when someone say, hey, development business is going to help us all out, but then you give them a tax abatement for that long, that's massive. And then at the 10-year mark, I mean, again, I'm not going to start a rumor, but they could move. Or how, and here I'd have to consult legal authority about depreciation, and the prime years of the value of the plant are gone. So it seems like we're being sold a bill of goods to be negative about it, and then boom, you throw an abatement on there. So it hasn't changed anything. And the key should be, you should improve the tax base, and that's not an example of doing it. Now, they do pay fees. I don't want to be completely negative, and they will pay what's called a payment in lieu of taxes, but that's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But in essence, the city, the county, and especially the schools are foregoing millions. So to answer the people are right in that case. So how do we fix that in the future? Would maybe for future discussion how we could be involved with that. But it seems that the default response is, oh, tax breaks, tax abatements. You folks who own homes out in the rural space, I don't know if you've seen today's paper, but again, property taxes are the #1 issue. Yeah, tell me about it.
Okay, let's jump to question 12. Okay, question 12 was, should the Leavenworth County Port Authority and Leavenworth County Development Corporation, LCDC, be funded by county tax money? The top 4 answers are no, property taxes are already too high at 59.2%. No, they are not a core government function at 16.4%. Yes, they bring businesses to Leavenworth County at 11.1%. Yes, fund them, but at reduced levels, 7.6%. This question, as you might expect, also had a lot of write-in responses. Richard, again, your thoughts and analysis, and if you could maybe give us a feeling what some of the write-ins were on it.
Another expected result, but also this is consistent with some of the county commissioners and Baser. Baser is out. A lot of the local governments have said, no, we're not getting our bang for our buck with that. We can do that ourselves. So it's not just the people, it's the governments themselves. I know the county's been pushing back, but they're also trying to work with them on that. But so some of the great quotes we got was from a respondent. They should have be funded by a performance-based model. You know, have standards, have a plan, and then are you meeting your objectives? And if they bring in a percentage of taxes, maybe they should get a cut of that, incentive-based. But don't abate all their taxes, but make them work for it. Just like if they want incentives, I think those are fair incentives. Performance-based, you brought X, Y, and Z in, you get a cut of the business. And we do have some duplication, I would say. Again, I'm not an expert in this organization, but from what I've seen, strategic direction is lacking, and this is coming from one of the folks involved in it. So we need strategic direction on what we think is capable. But in the defense of these organizations too, and reading about the history of urban development in Kansas, location, and history matters, because like Lenexa developed a certain way, access to the interstate system and interchanges, rail matters. And then the fact that we got prisons and the fort, which is great for some folks, retirees, but you push forward 150 years, not so much because it's a behemoth, $1 billion firm, if you will, but zero property taxes. And if it was commercial, you could look at $30 million estimated. That's a big chunk. So again, I don't want to push it all off on all these organizations because there are other factors that are beyond their control. Yet when they do something, hey, let's do it in a way that benefits the whole community.
Okay, question 13 is a sister question to question 12. Question 13, which entities are responsible for attracting businesses to Leavenworth County? This was also a check all that apply with the option to write in responses. The top three answers that you can see from the slide are Chambers of Commerce at 57.1%, Leavenworth County Development Corporation at 52.1%, county personnel at 26.3%. Sherry, please, your analysis and perhaps your top three write-ins.
Sure. People recognize that LCDC does have a role in attracting businesses, but as noted on the previous slide, they aren't very supportive of funding the organization with tax dollars. The low not sure implies that people may be fairly confident that they know what these organizations do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it seems like they think they know. It is surprising that the chamber ranked as high as it did, because what I've seen mostly from the chambers is that they're not networking and fostering a positive business climate, but not so much going out and meeting with site selectors or responding to a business inquiry. And that may be my limited knowledge about what is going on. But I was surprised to see that the chamber ranked higher than Leavenworth County Development Corp. Now, city personnel do get involved. For example, the Baser grocery store, that was because of city personnel got involved.
And they were a very close third, right? Or a fourth answer.
Yeah, 25%, 25.6%. And we know that the Department of Commerce works closely with LCDC
Yeah,
in many cases. So that there's kind of a gap there.
I think I need to point out, we have an error on the slide. They were actually up 35.5%, I believe,
Kansas Department of Correction.
commerce.
Oh, Department of Commerce, yeah.
That's my fault.
Well, that's what it says, 45.5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're one of the top responses.
Oh, yeah. So a couple of the write-in, there was one write-in in particular that summed it up very well. And it says these organizations should be working together, which they should be. And taking into consideration what the majority of the citizens want and when they make the decision. Some people didn't really seem to be aware that businesses had been come to town. Like they didn't really acknowledge like those pet food, for example. That was a big win for the county, or for our community, and the business that's there beside it. And then another comment was that sometimes government makes it difficult for businesses to come to town. So
I quickly comment, just a quick note on what these
Couple
organizations,
sentences.
what these organizations can do that the government can't is like, the government is subject to the Kansas Open Records Act and Kansas Open Meetings Act. And in the competition, disclosure and confidentiality is super important because you don't want to advertise your competitors, this and that. So that would be very difficult, if not impossible, for the government to do. So a shout out to that capability that these organizations can do that we can't. And also that we all, I think most of us believe in small government. So if you want to give the government capacity, it's going to come at a big price. So we got to weigh that too.
So private organizations maybe can do a little bit more of
Yes,
confidential business
absolutely. It'd be
negotiations.
easier for businesses to feel more confident in dealing with them rather than a business who has to say, well, I just had this meeting and here are the notes and. Yeah,
By law.
By law, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to question 14. Yeah, we saved a sleeper question to the last. We don't want to get everybody all worked up right before bedtime. Okay, question 14. Do you believe the elected Leavenworth County officials generally represent the views and desires of the majority of voters? The responses are no, 65.6%. Not sure, 17.8%. Yes, 16.6%. Again, this one's a question I've got to get all three panelists in on. So, Steve, Richard, and then Sherry, please. Steve.
Just pointed out earlier that Judy Katz, to the best of my knowledge, is the only county commissioner that has been voted out of office. It's who in here likes Congress. It's people tend not to like their representatives. Having said that, the way that the Board of County Commissioners almost always unanimously approves rural subdivisions tends to give a lot of credence to the no answer there.
Richard?
Yeah, what I loved about local government when I got involved with this was you can talk to your county commissioners and you can get their attention. That's good. And if enough of us do that, we can make a difference. So that's a positive. Dealing with the state and the federal is another matter, as you all know. But where the rubber meets the road, it's possible. And again, we have many examples of that. It's just we have to do it because it's tough and there's so many interests out there. But who's representing ours is the question. And I think we have to do it ourselves and as a group.
Thank you. Sherry?
Well, I will say that the county commission does make a lot of good decisions. You know, they make some maybe the questionable ones too. But, you know, our survey was directed a lot towards what we do, but there are other things that they're making decisions on as well. So, you know, this gives us the perception that the commission is going in an opposite direction of what the people desire, or maybe they're not listening. Another interpretation is respondents are making an assumption about the commission and may not actually know, you know, what they have accomplished. So, do you have any more comments on that?
Oh,
No.
I guess one quick one is we can't assume that the commissioners know everything because you probably know more on specific items than they do. And they need to hear that. So just food for thought.
Yeah. I would like to remind everyone that this was an informal survey conducted by non-experts, just kind of to get the feel of you know, what people are thinking. We want to thank all of you for participating in the survey. The questions that we've collected, and if any more come up on the Facebook page, will be discussed in a future meeting along with identifying next steps.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll just jump in. Because of time again, we want to ask everyone, and I haven't seen many on the chat. So Zoom audience, if you've got questions or comments, please go ahead and put them in the chat so that we can compile them. Also, I guess for everybody, the RLI Facebook page is very active. And we can also use that. If you think of something after the meeting tonight and, you know, the chat's closed, put it in a Facebook post or comment on somebody else's Facebook post. And we can use that to compile comments and thoughts and concerns for the meeting where we discuss all that. Again, I apologize in advance for not being able to do kind of live interactive Q&A tonight. You know, time is our enemy on that. But we do intend, as Sherry said, to discuss these in a future meeting, probably our next RLI meeting. Okay, Sherry, anything else before we take a quick reset break and then move into our business portion?
We will share the results on the Facebook page. You kind of alluded to that, but you know, we will make them more public than what we.
Yeah, everything's free.
You know, we did get input from the public, and I'm sure they want to know what the results are.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going stop not really stop, but pause the recording and then we'll come back and do the officer election. And we're going to mute.
clear
Okay.
the building by 8.
Yeah,
So, and I know we're the worst offenders here, especially Richard and I. So, let's go ahead.
Call you with that.
Sherry, if you
Okay,
could start us out.
we are gonna go ahead and get started again. The last portion of our meeting is the election of board members. We have 2 positions open. We have 5 board members in total. And the 2 positions that are open are Howie Brewington, who isn't here in person. He may be online with Gretchen via that Zoom session, but he is not planning to run for reelection. So we definitely have a vacant spot there. The other position is mine, and I am willing to run again. So we'll take a nomination for that when we get there. But the first, we have District 1 represented, District 2, District 3, and I'm an at-large. And Howie is currently an at-large, but we would like to fill it with a District 5. And so first thing we'll do for our bylaws is solicit a nomination for District 5. If no nominations for District 5 arise, then we just make that an at-large position.
Sherry, could we quickly just say who the commissioner is for each of those districts? Because
Sure. District 1 is Jeff Culbertson. District 2 is
Vanessa Reed.
Vanessa Reed. District 3 is Willie Dove. And District 5 is Mike Steben. District 4, we don't, per our bylaws, if the majority of the district is city, we don't have a board member for that.
a specific.
Yeah.
A real quick point, if anybody in the Baser, Linwood area wants to be 3, I'll let them be 3. I live almost on the border of District 5, so I almost straddle it. So if you want to be District 3, I'll give up District 3 and take District 5.
Okay, so first we'll accept nominations for District 5. Are there any nominations for District 5? You can nominate yourself, or you can have someone else nominate you. So are there
Okay, I'll take 5.
There we go.
There we go.
Great.
Second,
Okay, so just per Robert Rules of Order, we solicit nominations 3 times, so we've done that. Are there any other nominations? Any other nomination? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept by acclamation Jeanette Clam? Fred Fred Haynes? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Corey seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And so that's gonna be a 1 year for. I'm gonna be 5 and you're gonna, it doesn't matter. It's, we'll figure it out,
Yeah, but see, he stepped down and flip flop. Okay, so, Jeanette, thank you for stepping up. Welcome to the board.
awesome.
Okay, now on to the second position. Are there any nominations for the at-large position? Okay, Fred nominated me and I accept. Are there any other are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, is there a motion to accept by acclamation? Okay, Fred,
I second it.
Thank you.
second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I am a continuing board member.
Yay.
Thank you for your vote of confidence. Okay, so with Howie leaving, we have a vacant treasurer position. Prior to the meeting, Steve did volunteer, if no one else is interested, to do both the secretary and treasurer's responsibility. Unless someone And that is not something, that is something we within the board decides.
Well, it's, in terms of treasury, it just needs to be somebody close to
The bank.
Pacer or Oganoxie, because we have accounts with Community National, there's not a lot there. So I'm wondering if you want, are you close to Pacer?
Yeah, and I bank at Community National too, so. I mean,
Okay.
I,
You'd be willing to do that?
the treasurer part, sure.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. So, we'll basically have you work with Howie to get, you know,
Pass it
that
over.
account. Okay, so that concludes our election process. We finished in wonderful time. We're gonna be able to get out of here before we get kicked out of the library for hitting up against their time limit. In summary, we appreciate all of you being here tonight, those of you online. We look forward to working with you. We'll delve into those questions like we talked about. And we just appreciate the support. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh.
Or do we need to get a press?
Huh?
Or did that count as you being?
Oh, well, we can decide. Would somebody like to do the president's role?
Do we, I mean, nomination?
Would you like to do that?
Oh, no, I think I want to nominate Sherry Grogan. for
Okay.
president.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'll be continuing as the president.
All in favor?
Official.
Aye.
Okay, so that concludes our meeting. Thank you.
All right.
I'm gonna go ahead and end the meeting. I think I forgot to start the recording again.